The SnyderVerse. Should it continue? Hey, it's me, AP, and welcome to the Saturday Movie Show. I hope you're having a lovely Saturday, everyone out there. It is not too bad of a Saturday here for me in the UK, and it's been a good week. It has been a good week for movies, for TV shows. Fantastic week of watching stuff, and I have really enjoyed it. But today's episode is we're going to be discussing Justice League, and we're going to be discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League that dropped this week. And I want to just say in advance of watching any point forward in this episode, it's going to be a fairly heavy spoiler episode. You know what I mean? There's going to be loads of spoilers. So let's do the countdown, the spoiler countdown, ladies and gents. So it is spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League and everything else. So we'll do more spoilers, but Zack Snyder's Justice League spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. Spoilers ahead, ladies and gents. So, what can we say about it? So, first of all, what did I think of Zack Snyder's Justice League? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good watch. I was a bit apprehensive going into this, first of all, because it was a 4-hour watch, and I've never watched a 4-hour movie before, and I didn't really know what to expect, whether I'd feel fatigued halfway through, or whether it would be too much and feel like a drag. First of all, my impressions of that, it wasn't a drag for me. I enjoyed watching it. I had a small break in between it to grab a drink, grab some food. But generally speaking, I watched it all for the 4 hours, and I didn't feel at any point like, oh, this is too much. This is getting a bit too much now. It's been on for too long. It felt like a good, enjoyable watch for me. The 4 hours went quick, and I really enjoyed the way it was split up into these chapters. The way you have like part 1, part 2. I really enjoyed that. It felt like, because I know there was rumours before the initial release and how they were going to release it, that they were going to do it as like a TV show, and you could see that this could have easily been released as a TV show in segments. And but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the format. It was a different format. The aspect ratio, I didn't mind that. It wasn't off-putting. It was fine to watch. It was a great movie, and it was nice to see, after years of hearing about this Snyder Cut. It was nice to see it all come together, and we see this end result. And I feel like it was a good end result. It didn't have flaws in it for me. For me, there was no real negatives for it. It was all just a really good movie experience, and I very much enjoyed it. And we always, because there's that many superhero movies out now, we're always comparing it. We're always saying, oh, it's not like Endgame. It's not like this movie. It's not like that. This very much, and I feel like this with a lot like the SnyderVerse movies, like Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice. They're very separate to what Marvel's doing and what DC is doing with some of their other superhero movies like Shazam and Wonder Woman 2. They've got their own tone. There's a sense of, this is something fresh, something very unique, very different in the genre of superhero movies. And this, and I will speak about certain segments in this, like the nightmare scene later in the episode. This really did have a unique feel as a movie, and whereas the original cut was very different to this, it was a lot more brighter, and compared to this one, there was a certain vision, and that was started in Man of Steel for what Zack Snyder wanted with this story of the DC comics and the comic characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash. And he made that vision come true, and he made the end mark, this film, all worth it. And I think it'd be nice to watch all the movies back to back now, and just to see to see the full picture finally. Because we got Man of Steel, and some people liked it, some people didn't like it. Similar to Batman versus Superman, it was a very similar feeling. Some were very wary of it, and then we got the Justice League theatrical cut, and it didn't really gel in with what came prior to that. But now we have the Zack Snyder cut, and we can have them trilogy of movies where they all feel one, they all feel whole, and it feels like we've got this trilogy. This is a trilogy of movies: the Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and the Justice League Snyder cut. This is the trilogy of his SnyderVerse movies now, and we can see the full picture. We can see what he wanted to do. We can see the road he was building and what he built and the end of the road. And I think it's really great, and I'm really glad that this come to be in the end, because this is something very unusual. And you could say we've only got this because of the pandemic. We could say maybe this would have come at some point because of HBO Max. Maybe this is what they were going to do eventually. So it's hard to say ifs and buts and whether this would have come to be if it wasn't a normal set of circumstances in the world. But look, I really enjoyed it as a viewing experience. It was a great viewing experience. The chapters, I didn't feel that like it was a chore. As I said, it felt like a box of chocolates at Christmas or something, and you have one chocolate, and this is what I'm talking about with chapters. You have these box of chocolates, which are the chapters of the movie, and you have one chocolate, and then you're like, I'll just have one more. And I felt like this. It was like drip feeding me these chocolates, these Justice League flavored chocolates, and each one I was like, oh, maybe I'll just have one more chapter. And this is what I was doing, and I did, like I said, I took a break in between, but I was just so happy and so excited to watch another chapter of this that I just ate the whole box and I watched the whole movie, and I really enjoyed it. And as I said, I've never watched a 4-hour movie before. It was a long movie, but it didn't feel long because I really enjoyed the experience. It didn't feel like a 4-hour sit down watch. It felt more like maybe like a 2-3 hour movie. It was very enjoyable for me. I enjoyed it, and it was very different from what Marvel put out. I enjoy Marvel, but I enjoy what Zack Snyder has done here with the DC Comics characters. So for me, it definitely gets a thumbs up. I really enjoyed the experience, and I really enjoyed the movie. So next, I want to talk about comparing it to, the original theatrical cut that was made by Joss Whedon. And I want to just talk about the comparisons in this and what my overall impression of it is. So for me, when you compare the theatrical cut and the Zack Snyder cut now that's been released, they are very, very different. Very different. Look, we've got a completely different score. This one by Junkie XL, a whole new vision. It fits in with what the Snyderverse is. The original theatrical cut, I didn't not enjoy it. I thought it was an okay movie. I didn't think it was awful. I walked away just thinking, yeah, it's an okay movie. I didn't think, oh, this is garbage. I enjoyed it. The things I didn't enjoy at the time, though, because we all knew that there was reshoots going on, and I remember the initial reports out of this movie, the original, like Zack Snyder cut, they were saying like it was unwatchable, and this is why they got Joss Whedon in after Zack Snyder then departed because of the death in his family, and thought the sad death in his family, and we see all these reshoots then get done, and we see this like new story around Justice League. It's basically a whole new movie, it felt like. And when I was watching the theatrical cut, the original one, you could see where they put extra scenes in. And for me, it was more noticeable in scenes with Aquaman and Batman in the fishing village at the start. You'd see the original scenes, and then you would see green screen scenes in where like the hair would change on, like they were a different wig, and you could visually see where the extra scenes were put in. And it was very similar in the scenes with Barry Allen with Batman in his little cave, and they were doing extra scenes there. You could see where Barry Allen had a different hairstyle briefly, and maybe if you're not an eagle-eyed viewer, you might have missed it. but I could really see that, and it really stood out like a sore thumb. Things like that, sure, they're not the end of the world, but the whole um, the whole thing around the mustache as well with Superman, that was so bad. The CGI mustache was awful. We didn't get a CGI mustache in the Snyder Cut. It was all gone. It was all. I don't know why they filmed so much new material, because there was such a good story there. There was a great story there. I enjoyed it. They changed a lot, and it's interesting because we could say to ourselves, right, say Zack Snyder initially did stay on as the director, and he finished his vision originally, and we've seen his theatrical cut then without Joss Whedon's cut. Would it have been exactly what we've seen here? And the answer is no, because we wouldn't have had a 4-hour movie. So it would have been completely different, and we've got a different experience here because we didn't have the Joker in this original cut. It was a different set of circumstances. So we will never see that original Snyder Cut. We've seen the future Snyder Cut now. You know, this is the HBO Max 4-hour Snyder Cut we wouldn't have seen in cinemas. So it's very different, but I just look at that Joss Whedon cut and I just see a completely different movie, and it feels like a movie that's trying to force a certain image, a certain portrayal. It feels like it's trying to do too much of Marvel's way of thinking. We see a lot of the jokes that have been taken out from the Joss Whedon cut, and we see all that influence from what he done on the Marvel movies, the Avengers movies, and it just felt like it was forced upon the viewer, and it didn't feel right. And it wasn't awful, but it just didn't sit right with what Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice done prior to that. So the comparisons for me are obvious. You know, the original cut was a light-hearted, more comedic, not a full-on comedy, but I mean, there was definitely more humour put into it. Whereas this Snyder cut was darker in tone. It was more relevant to the tone of what the two prior movies had, and it was the vision of what the two movies prior had. And I think that's the most important thing here. The overall vision. It just didn't complete the vision with the original cut. The Snyder cut completed that vision of what this movie should have been. Seeing Darkseid, seeing Steppenwolf, actually the look of Steppenwolf in this movie is massively different. And his villain, that was another standout in the first cut. I didn't like the look of it. It looked computer generated, like overly computer generated. The way they added like the metallic look in the Snyder cut to his costume looked great. It felt like the voice was more distorted as well, and it worked out really well. I enjoyed Darkseid as this Thanos like master big boss villain. It was good. I really enjoyed that as well. The characters overall felt more fleshed out as well. The story arcs, especially like Cyborg, was a big standout here. We see more of his story on film. We see a completely different story. And I will still... I'm sure I will go back at some point and watch that original cut. And it would be interesting to just watch them beside each other and just to see the differences and to compare them and take notes and see how different they are. And I will watch that original cut. I won't like sort of delete it from my memory because I enjoyed it as a movie and I won't discard it. I'm not going to be a movie snob. I'm not like that. But I will now watch both movies, both versions. But for me, the Snyder cut just adds a bit more. It's more for me because it's fitting with what was before, what was created before with Zack Snyder. And yeah, they're very, very different, but the Snyder cut definitely stands out as the better cut for me, personally. So, which characters did I enjoy the most in the Snyder Cut Justice League? I think for me, the two main characters I enjoyed more in this one were Cyborg, and I bet a lot of people say that. It's Cyborg, his story arc was massively fleshed out. We see more of him in the film. He's very much like a core element to this story with the mother boxes. the story of the death of his mother, the death of his father, and how he became cyborg. It's a great telling of his story, and giving us more of that origin is good to see. So I feel like he was a standout character for me. And another one as well is Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, as Batman. His story arc, I felt like we see more of his character in this, and we see. I enjoyed it more than the original theatrical cut. I felt like there was more to his character, and it felt more like the way Batman should be. Maybe in the original cut there was too many jokes, and it was too a bit cheesy in certain areas. But this one, they kept. It just felt like Batman. It felt like Bruce Wayne. He felt really broody, very stoic-like in scenes, and that is what I wanted to see from Batman. And his performance as the leader, as the recruiter of the Justice League, was great, and I very much enjoyed that. So I think them two characters were great. I didn't feel like Superman's character Clark Kent changed much from either cut. I felt like that story was very much the same. Aquaman, we didn't see a massive amount of difference, and same with the Flash. I felt like those characters and Wonder Woman were very similar to the original cut, but Cyborg and Batman did feel different for me. They felt more. It felt like there was more there. It was like they stretched out the ideas of what them characters are within this cut, and I really enjoyed that. So seeing them two characters on screen develop more was very enjoyable for me, and they were the most enjoyable characters for me in the movie. So I'm sure this is a scene what everyone's enjoyed and what everyone's talking about. It is the epilogue scene, the final chapter, the final part in the story where we see the Joker. We see this nightmare vision. We see Bruce Wayne. He's asleep, but he gets this premonition of this future where Superman is working for Darkseid. Lois Lane has been killed. He's turned evil, Superman. And then we see Mira, we see Cyborg, we see the Flash, we see Deathstroke and Joker all teaming together in this apocalyptic world. And we see them then at the end, Superman comes down. But we see in between all this great scene between the Joker and Batman and them working together. And it's a very different Joker from what we've seen in the Suicide Squad. Jared Leto feels like he's been reborn. It was like a restart, a reboot for this character. And we see the long hair, the more Joker-like face. And it was a great scene between the Batman and the Joker. I really enjoyed it. It was great to see this nightmare future, because we don't know whether we're ever going to get a sequel to the Snyder Cut, SnyderVerse. So it's nice to sort of get that teaser of this future world and this nightmare eventuality or potential eventuality within the multiverse. You know, it's a probability. This could still happen. And it's just like a teaser of what could come and what may never come, because we may never get a sequel to these movies. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed having the Joker in there and seeing more Deathstroke as well. It was cool. And I enjoyed that. How amazing would that be to see a full movie in that nightmare sequence, like a Justice League nightmare storyline. I would really like to see that, the teaming up of the Batman and Joker, and that would be great. And it was a really good scene. I didn't really expect. I was thinking, when's this Joker cameo coming? Is it going to be soon? And then I get into like the last 20 minutes of the movie, and I'm thinking, is it still coming? And then we see it at the very end, and then Bruce Wayne wakes up, and then we see Martian Manhunter knocking on his door and waking him up, and we see this end scene of him saying, "Look, I'm here to help. I'm going to help you," and he's going to join. Obviously, he's going to join up with the Justice League now. It was great, and it was a great ending, a cliffhanger ending as well, because we see like Darkseid saying he's going to bring his armada to Earth, and again, it's all eventualities, all a big cliffhanger. But that nightmare scene for me was a great ending for this movie, really good ending, and it was very different from what we would see normally in a superhero movie. It was very different telling of a superhero story. So next, I want to really talk about the topic of the show today. should the Snyderverse continue? And should it continue with Zack Snyder, or should he just not return, but this universe he has built continue? Because look, we're getting more solo. The way DC is doing it now, they're doing this multiverse where we can have multiple Batmans, we can have multiple stories. It feels like they're doing it very differently from what Marvel are doing with it, where it's like a one continuous universe, and we may get some glimpses of the multiverse, but there's a standard main universe. But DC are doing it like we've got Matt Reeves as Batman, we're getting different Wonder Woman films. It all feels like everything's in a different universe. We're going to get a new Superman movie from J.J. Abrams. So, where does the Snyderverse fit into all this? Is this just another part of the multiverse? Is the Joss Whedon cut a different part of the multiverse as well? And will this Zack Snyderverse, the Snyderverse, continue? And should it continue? My personal views is, look, I enjoyed the movies, and I enjoyed Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and the Snyder Cut. Look, there's a teaser there. There's a cliffhanger. They said there's a cliffhanger. It didn't feel like a massive cliffhanger, but we see this cliffhanger, as I said, where Darkseid says he's going to bring his armada, and there's obviously going to be a massive battle upon Earth where the Justice League need to protect Earth. So there's definitely something there where there's a Snyder Cut, there's a new Snyderverse story to be told, a continuation, a sequel to this Justice League story as well. So I would really like to see that. I'd like to see what they do here with that, and I feel like there's maybe something on the Justice League side of things, and that would be the only place I would really continue this universe now, this story of characters within the Snyderverse. So for me, it should continue, but it should only continue as this story here of maybe because I think Zack Snyder's come out and said he planned out a trilogy of Justice League movies, and this would have been the first one. And he has said in interviews, I don't know where the interview was, I remember reading it online the other night, where he said the plan it was with this nightmare sequence is for Lois Lane and Clark Kent to have a child, and then Superman does turn evil, but Batman then takes on the son, and then Superman's son becomes the new Batman in the future. So that would have been the original plan of what his story was telling here. So there was definitely a story in place. Would that be a good story? I think it would be certainly something very different from what we've seen. And look, the Snyderverse is completely different to what we see in any type of DC Comics superhero movie. I think it's very different feel, very different tone. The nightmare sequence, again, you take that out, it is a massive difference from what we've seen previously with superhero movies and with DC movies. So I would really like to see this story have a finale and have this story have a resolution, because it feels like it's teased something. And I suppose it's one of those where it could easily, this could be the ending. And sure, I imagine a lot of people would be happy with this Justice League Snyder Cut, that it's somewhat tied up a lot of loose ends, and it's tied up like the story of the resurrection of Superman and Batman sort of feeling bad for Superman dying. He's got over that, and he's done the good deed of reviving Superman and reviving things to good terms. But now we've got this big villain in Darkseid who has promised to threaten Earth and promised to wage war upon Earth. So there's still a story to be told there, and who's to say? Look, Zack Snyder might feel now that he is personally done with DC. He might feel like this is the end for him. So, say he doesn't return, would we like to see someone else take the reins and develop what he has started here with this story, and see the Snyderverse continue, but not under his helm? So, I feel like it could only be continued with Zack Snyder. If they're going to continue this story, it would only be right for him to be the person who's the showrunner, the storyteller, the magician behind the film, the filmmaker of the story. So if it does continue, I'm stuttering here. If it does continue, it's got to continue with Zack Snyder for me. I don't want to see this SnyderVerse continue with some other director. It would only feel right with Zack Snyder taking the reins and taking control and taking the stories further forward. Maybe it will continue. I suppose it all depends on the success of the way HBO Max and Warner judge the subscriptions, because it's going to be a massive amount all to do with the HBO Max subscriptions and whether it is profitable to do a sequel, whether people enjoy it. I've been looking at like Rotten Tomatoes the other day, the reviews, very mixed reviews, but look, every film's got mixed reviews, haven't it? I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the experience. I would like to see it continue. I just like, maybe if they just give us that trilogy that Zack wanted to tell. We see the hashtags on Twitter of like restore the SnyderVerse. And I think initially before this release, DC have sort of said this is going to be the end of it. And Zack Snyder I think he said on interviews that it is just like a one and done thing. But if this is hugely successful, who's to say it won't continue? Who's to say that if this gets a massive following, that it won't continue? Look, the same thing happened. The only reason we got this Snyder Cut is because of the awesome fans who started petitioning online for years, starting websites, going on marches. They wanted to see this cut, and we've seen it because of fan power. If fan power gets behind this idea of restore the SnyderVerse and to give us more sequels, I don't see why it can't happen. I really do think it's something that could happen. And I would not be surprised if we hear within the next, next couple of months, some sort of development of a sequel or maybe a TV show or some sort of spin-off of what he's doing here and what he started here with this trilogy of Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman and the Justice League. So I want to see it. I would happily see it. I would happily pay to see it. And look, I enjoyed what I seen when I watched it, and I would like to see more of these stories continued. As I said, my dream would be to see a movie of this nightmare sequence and seeing a team up. Imagine that, a team up of the Joker and Batman in that sort of like Mad Max dystopian future world where they're taking on Superman. How cool would that be to watch? If we see like the prequel to that nightmare scene, that story of the way Aquaman dies, the way I think is Wonder Woman dead? I think she's dead as well. I want to see that story, that prequel movie to that moment, and then we finish with that end scene of Superman coming down and flashing the eyes at them all, and I think it would be great to see. And I'm sure, I reckon there's going to be a massive following for this movie. I really do. I think it's going to be something that is going to be adored by fans. I think there's going to be a massive cult following around this movie. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be saying, we want more, give us more. And hopefully that does happen. So, that is the end of that topic of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And now I just want to do a bit of housekeeping section of the show. So, housekeeping, and as I said last week, and I've said in the past couple of weeks on the show, it's the third month of the year. We're going to do something special at the end of the month. So, the plan of action for next Saturday now is we are going to do a movie quiz on the show. It is going to be next Saturday, unless there's a massive, massive amount of movie news. If there's if they announce on Friday night they're going to do Justice League 2 and 3, the quiz will not be happening on Saturday. The quiz will be then shifted to Sunday. I'm just saying that now. But if it's sort of like a low week of movie news, nothing too major, I will be definitely doing the quiz next week in place of the Saturday movie show. And I've not named the quiz yet. I've not named the movie. I will hopefully within the week name the movie, and it will be a quiz where you can all get involved. You can all listen to the quiz, leave your questions, leave your answers, and it's going to be an interactive quiz. I want the audience, the community here to enjoy it, and it's going to be a movie I really enjoy, and you're going to hear about the movie throughout the week, hopefully. So it's going to be good, and it's going to be exciting to do, something different, something special. I'm going to be doing a few bits of filming this week as well, related to a few other things that I'm trying to plan out. This week's been a bit of a pain to film stuff and record stuff because I've had like workers in the house and stuff. So I've not been able to film stuff because there's been banging going on. So this has been the first bit of filming I've done this week, which has been a bit awkward. But look, I've still got a week to plan out this end of the month, end of the third month special, end of the month event, and it's going to be special. So next Saturday will be the quiz on one movie in particular, which I will inform you all of. It's going to be a fun day, and that'll be this week. I'm just going to be working on that, working and getting that all cool and all amazing for you all. And I've got a cool video coming up this Thursday. I've nearly finished the editing on that. It's going to be a brand new series coming to the channel. I'm very excited to share it with you all. I hope you all enjoy it. It's something I wanted to do for a while, so it's going to be exciting to share with you on Thursday. So that is going to be something. And that is the housekeeping for today. That is the housekeeping over and done with. Ladies and gents, thank you for staying in with me all there. So what have I been watching this week? Let's get to the what have I been watching section this week. So I've watched 2 different movies this week. I watched Earwig and the Witch, the new Studio Ghibli movie. Finally got around to watching that. It wasn't my favourite movie, I'll be honest with you. I didn't really think much of it. I didn't really enjoy the digital CGI animated style compared to the old hand-drawn cartoon animation of the previous Studio Ghibli movies. So yeah, it wasn't really for me. It's not something I'd watch again, and I don't even feel like on a second watch I would enjoy it more. It just wasn't my movie. It felt like modern Postman Pat. I don't know if Postman Pat goes across the world, if it's a big thing across the world, but I loved Postman Pat and Fireman Sam as a kid, and now it was like the style when I was a kid. It was like Wallace and Gromit sort of animation, sort of stop motion animation. But now I've seen, as an adult, these new versions of the shows from my childhood, like Postman Pat and Fireman Sam, and the CGI animated effects, and it just doesn't gel well with me. And this didn't feel. It felt like a modern day version of something like that, like a Postman Pat. And I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the style. I didn't really enjoy the story too much. The music wasn't great in my opinion. So for me, it was not the best Studio Ghibli movie. Probably the worst one I've watched. Because I really enjoy Studio Ghibli. My favourite Studio Ghibli movie is Spirited Away. That is fantastic, and this is nowhere near the level of that movie. So what I would say, if you're watching this Earwig and the Witch movie for the first time, try not to compare it too much, or try not to be put off by Studio Ghibli's movies, because the movies are fantastic. And if you're going to start with any Studio Ghibli movie, start with Spirited Away, because that movie is glorious, absolutely glorious. The other movie I watched was Bloodsport, Jean-Claude Van Damme's Bloodsport. This was a movie my brother-in-law had recommended for quite some time, and I was just putting it off. It was in my movie list, but I finally got around to watching it this week, and it was okay, but it was I felt like it was a really dated movie. This was a movie that was made in the 80s, and it stayed in the 80s. It's not aged well. It's not aged well, in my opinion. I didn't think it was amazing. I know a lot of people love this movie, Bloodsport. I like the tournament. You know, you got this secret tournament where people go, and it's like a fight where people could die in these fights, and it's all like in this like underground sort of like warehouse area, and it's this very mysterious. Not a lot of people know how to get in. It's very secretive, and I like certain aspects of it. I think it would, if they did a reboot of that movie, it would be much better now. And there's definitely something there where they could maybe develop a reboot at some point. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see like a Bloodsport TV show further down the line. But I for me, it wasn't a good movie. I just didn't really like it. It wasn't a good watch. It was just very, very cheesy and very outdated for me personally. But look, everyone's got their own opinions. That's my opinions of it. It was no Karate Kid, and that is a timeless movie. Absolutely timeless. Next up, I want to talk about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I finally got around to watching it this morning. The first episode of this, and let me just say, spoilers ahead. So, spoilers for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, what did I think of this show? I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching this. I was trying to compare it to WandaVision, and the experience I felt with watching the first episode. The first episode of WandaVision felt just like a really bad viewing experience. I didn't enjoy the first 2 episodes, and even if I watched them back now, I'd still feel the same. Just didn't click with me straight away. This did. It was just action. It was a great scenes. Started off just to hit you in straight away into this big action sequence. I enjoyed the characters of Bucky and Sam. Really cool characters. And Bucky especially, right? Bucky, for me, in the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, felt very, very similar to Martin Riggs out of the Lethal Weapon franchise. Mel Gibson's character in the Lethal Weapon in the first movie. He felt like a character who was very much on the edge. We see him having flashbacks to killing people as the Winter Soldier, and we see him talking to this therapist. And it really, I was watching this thinking, wow, it just feels like Riggs. It feels like Riggs is the Winter Soldier. And maybe that's what they're going for. It's like this duo mix-up. We didn't see them together in this first episode, but maybe we're going to see this like Lethal Weapon team-up where the Winter Soldier is this sort of like unhinged character who's fighting with his past, and then you've got Sam Wilson who's dealing with the Shield and like the aspects of taking on that mantle. Maybe he should have taken on that mantle, but he felt like the Lethal Weapon. He felt like Martin Riggs in this Bucky Barnes, and I really enjoyed it. As a Lethal Weapon fan, I felt like there was tons of inspiration from that first movie in this first episode. But I really liked the episode. I liked the tone of it. I liked this, arcing out the stories and arcing out the characters as well. We see more of like Sam's family with his background, which was nice to see as well, seeing where he came from and how his family have dealt with his, they all thought he was dead with the blip. He comes back after 5 years. His family have struggled to they've run like this shipping industry where they fish, and the company is running out of money. They're going to lose the house. They're going to lose the business. Trying to get a loan, they can't get a loan. I like the idea that they've got loads of different stories. We're seeing the human side of these superhero characters. We're seeing with Bucky, he's struggling with life in this new world, with dating, with the actions he has he's done in the past as the Winter Soldier. And then we're seeing like Sam deal with the Shield, becoming the Falcon, turning down the mantle of Captain America. And then we see at the very end of this episode, they then bring on the US agent John Walker and announce him as the new Captain America. So it's like they go behind his back then and they give the shield to someone else, the government, which is a pretty bad move on my opinion. But it really sets up what is going to be an interesting show. And we see the Flag Smashers as well, this terrorist group who are going around robbing banks and beating people up. There's a lot of different story threads here, and it's going to be really cool to see this develop over 6 episodes. And again, it got me in straight away. This is the kind of show I enjoy. I enjoy a much more action orientated show, and this is right up my street. And it felt like a movie again. Again, same with WandaVision. It felt like a big time movie, but as a TV show. It is phenomenal what they're doing here on Disney Plus, and I very much enjoyed what I seen of it straight away. So that's it for the show today. If you enjoyed it, please do give this video a like and check out the rest of my movie related content as well. And thank you very much for watching today. What did you think of the Justice League Snyder Cut? Did you enjoy it? What were your opinions? Do you think it should continue? Where and how should it continue for you? Would you like to see more Justice League movies, or would you like to see maybe a Ben Affleck Batman movie, or maybe Man of Steel 2, but Snyder Cut, Snyder as the director. How would you like to see all of this continue? Or do you think it should, lay low and never continue? And this should be the pinnacle, the ending of what the SnyderVerse is. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next Saturday.